Sarah Boone is no longer being held at Orange County Corrections, and whether Sarah knows it or not, things are about to get much, much worse for her. But Sarah might be able to find a silver lining if she can get her letters out of this facility. You see, this facility is filled with problems, major issues that Sarah Boone could, of course, view herself as a savior and bring to the light of the public if the facility doesn't take any actions to prevent her letters from leaving. Now, how bad could this place really be? Where is Sarah now? Well, Sarah Boone is currently in the process of being transferred, currently being held at the Florida Women's Reception Center, but her final destination is most likely going to be the Lowell Correctional Institution. Now, this is the largest prison for women in the United States. That's pretty crazy. And you might think that being so large, it would be state of the art. Well, it doesn't even have air conditioning in Florida. But that is a problem for future Sarah Boone when the heat comes back up. Immediate issues are rather big. It has consistently been associated with inmate abuse, sexual abuse, inhumane conditions, and little to no intervention from the state of Florida. The facility is currently under investigation for unsafe conditions with regards to the ongoing pandemic, and nearly half of the inmates have tested positive as of September 11, 2021, according to the Florida Department of Corrections. Inmates have taken to social media describing overcrowding, lack of medical care, and severe illness in some inmates. Now, some of this is obviously a little outdated, but if you search this correctional facility, you find new things, more recent things. Nothing appears to have changed or gotten better. Now, they have some facilities here that Sarah will not be involved in. For example, there's a juvenile section that she should be kept far, far away from. But what I think is probably most important is things like what you see here. In 2015, the Miami Herald announced it was going to publish an investigative series, Beyond Punishment, on Lowell Correctional Institution, alleging misconduct. The paper published a short video with the same title. The FLDC criticized the paper, stating that it had worked with the newspaper previously. It provided a statement in advance to the newspaper. In 2020, the United States Department of Justice stated that an investigation found widespread victimization occurred at Lowell. In August 2019, 52-year-old Cheryl Weimar was viciously beaten by correctional officers in an attack that left her a quadriplegic. She won a settlement for $4.65 million and was granted conditional release. I guess there is a way that Sarah Boone can get out. Captain Keith Mitchell Turner was later terminated from employment after being arrested on charges related to molesting 2 children, but not for his role in the attack. A second officer, Ryan Donnie, was allowed to resign after being implicated in the attack. Tuberculosis outbreak. In July 2005, 3,500 inmates and 800 staff members were tested at the Lowell Correctional Institution for tuberculosis. Prison officials confirmed 7 cases and no fatalities. State and local officials were unsure how the infection was brought into the facility. Now, the issues of infection and COVID issues are rather important because you don't keep up with the news, we might be looking at essentially a bird flu pandemic event, similar to COVID. Now, thankfully, there is, from my understanding, a working vaccine for bird flu, so this should be pretty simple. But Florida, specifically the medical side of Florida, has been very anti-vaccine, even some proven vaccines. So there's a chance that these inmates don't really get the vaccine before they are affected, if it does get that bad. Which I do want to say, if you've never looked in like backyard chicken communities on the internet, I know that's really niche, but if you look into it, people are across America talking about their chickens having coughs and sneezes and then they're being really dumb and bringing those chickens into the house to try to, treat them and take care of them better. That's why it could get real, real bad. You don't want to do that, but that's where we're at. And we have a list of notable inmates here if you would like to look at them and take a peek. Maybe you recognize some names and maybe you don't. But at the very bottom, Sarah Boone, serving life without parole for second-degree murder of her boyfriend, George Torres. So Sarah Boone, they've already updated the page. I mean, it was expected she was going to go. She's en route, it looks like. Not good for Sarah. Now, something I've never done is actually take a look at the page on this website for Sarah Boone. I don't know how they describe it. And I have not read it. I did click it, but I've not read it. And I thought I would just take a look, a live reaction here. George Torres Jr., a 42-year-old American man, suffocated to death on February 24, 2020, in Winter Park, Florida, after being zipped into a suitcase. George's height was 5 feet 2 inches and weighed 103 pounds. His girlfriend, then 42-year-old Sarah Boone, was arrested the following day for second-degree murder after agreeing to a police interview. She was convicted on October 25, 2024, and subsequently sentenced to life in prison. Boone's legal proceedings drew attention in part from Boone's written correspondence with the judge and a number of defense lawyers withdrawing from the case. Prior to his death, Torres had been arrested multiple times for alleged instances of domestic violence against Boone, and she had been arrested one time for an alleged instance of domestic violence against Torres. Boone had been arrested once for alleged battery by strangulation against Torres in July 2018, when both Boone and Torres were arrested. However, her charge in that case was dismissed. Torres had been arrested 4 times for alleged battery against Boone. Boone bailed Torres out of jail each time. That is missing so much context for what actually occurred. That it's criminal. It might never get updated. I don't know how big the standards are to update things on the website. With like more we've all watched the trial. I think at this point we know Sarah would have him brought over, have him come over, destroy his things, and then have him arrested. There's a lot of nuance there that's not being put in. A lot's being left out. On February 24th, 2020, Boone called 911 and told them that her boyfriend, George Torres, was dead. Boone claimed that she and Torres had a single bottle of wine and then decided to play hide and seek. She claimed that they thought it would be funny to put him in the suitcase and that they were both laughing. She stated that she went upstairs and accidentally fell asleep, leaving Torres in the suitcase. Torres' death was ruled a homicide. Oh yeah, they do have the other stuff. During the on-site investigation, Boone willingly turned over her phone to forensic investigators. A search of the phone found 2 videos that Boone had taken the night before. The videos showed Boone laughing at Torres, pleading for help inside the suitcase, with Boone stating, "That's what you do when you choke me, and that's what I feel like when you cheat on me." Boone was interviewed by the detective at the police department the following day. Boone stated she did not remember recording the videos. And we have the trial. Boone was subsequently charged with second-degree murder for killing Torres and held in Orange County Jail without bail. 8 different attorneys who represented her withdrew, 7 of them being court-appointed. Judge Michael Kranick ruled that Boone had forfeited her right to court-appointed counsel. On July 18, 2024, at a hearing where Boone was representing herself, she submitted a letter which included a hand-drawn advertisement for a lawyer. The advertisement was circulated by media reporting on the filing. Boone found representation by attorney James Owens. Owens met with state prosecutors about a possible plea agreement to the charge of manslaughter in exchange for a 15-year sentence, which Boone ultimately rejected. After multiple delays, including one due to Hurricane Milton, the trial began on October 14, 2024. A jury of 6 with 8 alternates was sworn in, and on October 18, 2024, Assistant State Attorney William J. began opening arguments. The defense argued that Boone suffered from battered woman syndrome. Assistant State Attorney Dave Cacciatore Jr. began closing arguments on October 25, 2024, and on the same day, less than 2 hours after deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict for second-degree murder. On December 2, 2024, Boone was sentenced to life in the Florida Department of Corrections. Obviously, a lot is left out that I think is very interesting and important to the case. But this is what a lot of people will see. They're going to hear about her, and they're just going to go to this page. Or they're going to watch a video, maybe someone doing like a compilation, a very short, like 10-minute video explaining it. But this is what a lot of them are going to see. And funny enough, it does mention her letters. Her letters are very, very prevalent in here. So this is Sarah's legacy on this website. Now, it might get updated in the future, especially if she tries to become a savior of this facility. My personal opinion is Sarah Boone comes in here. She is going to, she was going to like speak to the manager at the jail, right? I think she's going to get in a lot of trouble, and she's not going to listen very quickly, and maybe get in solitary, some punishment. And then afterwards, instead of being openly confrontational, I think she's going to write letters. And the issue with any letters she writes about what's happening in this institution is I would not be shocked if they are 50-50 true. So while Sarah will probably view herself as some sort of a savior, and if she gets, in trouble for writing the letter, she's a martyr, of course, I think she could do much more harm than good when it comes to this facility and shining a light on things, because we've seen how Sarah Boone paints stories and tells things, and it's not exactly accurate. So if Sarah reports on a real incident but then lies about multiple others, it can hurt the credibility, and she could be a liability to the other inmates trying to get any sort of improvement or justice for anything that may have happened to them. Which, again, might end up putting Sarah Boone in a position where she ends up in solitary for her own protection. This could be a new world for Sarah, where things are worse than she ever imagined. She already did that, I'm sure, in jail. I mean, there wasn't any Woodbridge Chardonnay, so she had to adapt to that. But in this facility, everything I've read, and I did some reading just the other day because it was assumed this is where she was going to go, so I was reading some things. It seems to be an absolutely terrible place. And someone like Sarah, she could easily be a target by correctional officers and inmates both. We're going to have to see if anything ever even gets out. There's a chance that Sarah Boone writes letters and they never leave this facility. There is a high possibility of that. There's a high possibility that we just don't really hear from her again in the capacity we have previously. Her case is closed. She has a new appeals lawyer. James Owens doesn't have to take her calls at all, and she could just be left. Now, with that being said, we are getting into the new year. I do plan to start some coverage on the Lori Daybell. I haven't gotten around to it. I've had too much stuff going on, and New Year, try to get into that stuff. Dig into that. Do like a video. I want to do something where I really want to take the time and like go through and get opinions myself as I go and like see how things unfolded. And I'm still not entirely sure the process I want to do that. I'm still thinking about how to go about that. If you've followed the channel, there's been some non-Sarah Boone stuff. I've covered a couple pro se defendants in federal court. Some weird fighting going on with CEOs of social media. Just things I could do pretty quick that I was, following when I had the spare time and made a quick video on them, but nothing like the coverage I did of Sarah Boone and the extensiveness of that. As I said before, I will be watching for more Sarah Boone stuff. If there's another place I should be looking for if Sarah Boone posts a letter or tries to share it, how she would do it, if there's some other methodology, because I don't think it would appear in the Orange County files anymore, let me know. I wasn't expecting her to be transferred until her civil case was dealt with, which hasn't happened yet, but she's on the move. And Sarah, she's been quiet for too long in her mind. I'm sure she's been quiet for too long. The letter we read previously, that was written 4 days after her sentencing, right? So she's not had an audience for that long. She's got to be ready to say something. Maybe she's going to try to get a final letter out from the Orange County if she knew ahead of time, and that might pop up at some point. I don't know. I don't know where to get the information on her from now on. If there's anything, as I said, they might not let it out. This could be Sarah's attempt to try to make herself feel like she is some sort of a martyr or a savior of the people in this institution and make herself feel grand, or this could be the destruction of her ego for good. We'll have to see.